the class. We started 5 after 5 was the same, so let's start now. It's a session with 2 papers. One is presented by the lady, and the other one is presented by, for example, company. And now we begin this session.
Thank you, Chicago. And my name is Christian Gallery, and I'm from Chiemgau, and I'm also doing a research work. And it's the University of Würzburg, and I want to discuss with you the topic of democratizing money. And I start with the beginning of the Chiemgau. It was in 2003, 16 years ago, with my students. They were the volunteers who were willing to take part at the students project at the Waldorf School Green at Lake Chiemsee. And in the beginning there was the question how to start, and they designed the logo, and they designed the money series. They arranged marketing and bookkeeping, so found the functions of building up a currency. And then businesses were asked to take part. And in the beginning, about 20 businesses were ready to accept Chiemgau. And at the first day, at the start date, about 30 parents and teachers exchanged about 2,000 euro into Chiemgau, and then the project began. Very small scaled, and they bought with the Chiemgau in the region, and then a few days after, businesses came to the students and wanted to change their Chiemgau back into euro, and they paid 95 euro for 100 Chiemgau. 3 Chiemgau, we heard it before, went into the non-profit project, and 2 Chiemgau went into the operating of the business of the students. And that was the beginning. It was more like a voucher system than a currency. And after some time, businesses found some confidence into the Chiemgau system, and they spent the Chiemgau again. And more businesses took part, and more non-profit organizations wanted to be donated by the Chiemgau system. In the beginning it was only one project. It was a sports hall for the Waldorf school, and after that kindergartens and traditional clubs and sports clubs wanted to be part of the system too. In the beginning we also had some problems in the background, not only at the school. Some banks were alarmed by the project, and they one executive informed the central bank, and he wanted to stop the project, and he referred to laws which were created in the 1930s, so many decades before, but they were still formally active. And the central bank discussed the case, and they made a study. They decided to make a study, and 1 year after they came to the conclusion that the local currencies are no danger for the euro, and as long as they remain local and as long as they remain time limited. That is the feature we heard before, that the Chiemgau has a time limitation with a demurrage, or we call it an incentive fee. So not negative interest rate, we call it an incentive fee. And with that we had a great relief, and we could go further. And when the financial crisis came in 2008, suddenly the banks were interested in the idea of the Chiemgau, and local banks were reminded that their origin is regional too. before the financial crisis, they were keen to speculate with money and globalize their business. But after the financial crisis, they were very interested to find regional opportunities, and they were open to cooperate with our Chiemgauer system. And then we developed an electronic payment system, and we developed also a microloan system together with banks. And with that innovation, it was easier to connect with more businesses, more non-profit organizations, and also local authorities. And the system has grown, and so it went bigger. And today we heard some figures about 500 businesses take part, and about 6 or 7 million of Chiemgauers are traded in the Chiemgauer network. One example of our Chiemgauer is Julia Kollmannsberger. She operates a regional market in Prien at Lake Chiemsee, and she earns about 100,000 Chiemgauer a year, and she spends all of her Chiemgauer again for regional food, for organic food, for renewable energy from the region, for employees, for business services, for private needs. She also donates some Chiemgauer, so she is well integrated into the Chiemgauer system. And yes, so that's only one person, so I could tell you many stories about persons who are integrated in this Chiemgauer system, and that's the currency. And when we compare it to the beginning, the rules are quite the same. The core is quite stable, but we had one change. We decreased the incentive fee from 8% to 6%. So now we have an incentive fee which is not a quarter but half a year, and every half a year you have to put a stamp on the Chiemgauer currency, and on the Chiemgauer accounts you have a daily calculation. So 6% divided through 365 days, so you have about 0.01% per day, which businesses or owners of Chiemgauer accounts have to pay. But on the electronic accounts, the incentive fee is only applied after 90 days. So you have time 90 days, 3 months. And after that, the incentive fee is applied. And businesses earn Chiemgauer, and they spend the Chiemgauer as much as they can. The Chiemgauer is about 4 times faster in circulation than the euro. So when we compare it. The currency cycle, it's the same as you saw it before. The consumer, he has a regio card, he has to registrate. It's free for the consumers, and then he exchange, for example, 20 Chiemgauer, and he pays 20 euro, but not in cash. It's withdrawn from the bank account, and the regio card is very important because the non-profit organization is registered with this card system. And the consumers spend the money, and it turns around about 4 times, and in average, and then the Chiemgauer is changed back into euro. And businesses has to pay 5%, so for 20 Chiemgauer they get 19 euro. And 1 Kingo is spent to the non-profit organizations. They spend the Kingo 2 into the currency cycle, and it also circulates 4 times. And the wages, for example, for activists are also paid in Kingo, and they also spend them in the currency cycle. So my wage is paid in Kingo, and I have to see that I have to buy all my things in Kingo. So when you see all my clothes or what I need and food or electricity, I pay it with Kingo.
You can survive with Kingo? You can survive with Kingo?
I can survive with Kingo. There are some exemptions, so I have to do some deals with my wife. She earns euro at her office, and so I exchanged some of my Kingo, so I could drive with the German railways, or some exemptions where I can't pay with Kingo, and the employer, the Kingo organization. We also have a cooperative. It's called Regios. He has to pay the taxes and the social security fees in euro. So that's not possible to pay it in Kingo. So in my paper, I wanted to make a comparison between the Libra and the Kingo, or local currency, which are based on associations and cooperatives, and the Libra case is quite interesting because when you look at it, only businesses who have more than $10 million can participate at the system, and it's a system where we have where we have this situation that about, I think, more than 99.9% of the humanity can't invest the sum of $10 million. So it's only owned by a very, very small fraction of humans, and therefore, when you look at the decision rules, most of the people are excluded from deciding what the rules of the Libra would be, and so it could be that when you own Libra, it could be more stable than the currency of a country like Venezuela or Turkey. And but in the core principle, we have a problem that the basic foundation of the currency is not democratic. I call it oligarchic, versus the democratic version. And of course, we have heard before that money has to do with power. So here we have enterprises who have much power, because when you look at MasterCard and Visa and PayPal, they control most of the capital flows or the trade flows in the international transactions. And when they combine together, then we have a real big power, and it's I think it's much more than the power, for example, of a state like Turkey. So we have to deal with it. And I tried to make a small typology, but it's not my typology. I have some sources where I refer, but I exchanged one aspect, and it's I took sustainability instead of another aspect, and then I tried to put in what we have in the world. So mostly we have the bank money, so private issued money, which is about 70% of the money volume worldwide for the money transactions. We have about 10% cash, and we have about 20% central bank money, but the public doesn't see the central bank money. It's only transacted by the banks. So when you compare the money which is used by the public, you have to compare bank money with cash. And all other money types are less than 1%. And we know barter systems or time banks. That's one type. It's peer-to-peer. I think most of them are sustainable. Most of them are digital, but they are not public. So they are not issued by the state, of course. And we have radio, like the Chiemgauer or the Jusko. It's peer-to-peer, it's sustainable, but not digital, not public. In the case of the Jusko, we could discuss it because it's strongly connected to the city of Bayonne or other communities. And we have the e-regio, the digital form of the local currency. And so it's digital, sustainable, but they are mostly not peer-to-peer. But we have also cases where we have peer-to-peer solutions in Kenya, for example, with Will Rudik. And then we have types of cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies which are issued by central banks. It's only a discussion; it's not real, but of course the concept we can put in here. Or what could be interesting would be crypto council currencies or digital council tax credits. And the example of Wörgl, we will see in the history we had things like cash tax credits. So cash tax credits are peer-to-peer. They are public when they are issued by a local authority. They are quite sustainable, but they are not digital. And one important theory I found is very similar to the chartalist theory of money, and it's the basis for the theory of Christine Desan. She has a theory of collective design of money. And she says money is a common agreement, and the state is the sovereign, and the institution of money matters. So money is not neutral, or money is not a metal or a thing. The issuance of money depends on the power to collect contributions. So it could be also a collective which could collect contributions, but mostly it's taxes. So and when you have the power to raise taxes, you could directly finance public goods. So in the case of Wörgl, you build a kindergarten, and then you say afterwards, okay, please pay the taxes of the city council. And the credits are redeemed by taxes, and the limits would be the power to tax and the capacities of the region. And it it has much to do with the modern money theory, or with the approach of a positive money, and I think they would say don't go the way don't go the way around the banks or with the banks. It's too complicated, and it's easier for the state to finance things of the public directly. And when you look at local authorities, it could be a very good appliance for local currencies which are combined with local authorities. And of course, we tried also to establish a local currency in combination with a city or a community. But here we had legal problems, and we tried to have solutions for it. But we have for 2 or 3 years the example that the city council accepted Chiemgau for taxes and spent it again. So we have a quite positive example, but at the time it is stopped by the state or by the supervisory authorities. Okay, thank you. Let's.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you were to look 2 or 3 years into the future, do you think the fit for community currencies is still with local governments? Or do you see it being in banks or cryptocurrency or venture?
My hope, and I think that in 3 years we could establish a combination with local authorities again. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
And is that a trend internationally for, or just with Chiemgau?
I think in every region where you have problems with high unemployment rates, there will be a topic and more topics. So and we have so many regions in the world where we have the problems with so many capacities and so many needs, and it's not we have no arrangement, and when you have local authorities, then they have to be interested in establishing such systems. And of course it will be interesting how they are designed, and I think it's very important to have the citizens in the boat. So that's not a top-down approach, it's a bottom-up approach combined with a top-down approach, and I think like you have it in Calgary or when I don't know, in Kenya, it's that's always a communication process with politicians and local authorities, and so we also have a quite good relationship to local politicians, and I think we can establish it.
And just to
But the cryptocurrencies theme, we heard before the case of the USCO and the study about it, and at the time we are quite at the same level. So we don't really see an advantage to change a centralized bookkeeping system to a cryptocurrency. But we are open, of course, and we see that there are also combinations, and so let's see, perhaps not in 3 years, but perhaps in 7 years.
And just to clarify, you said about taxes, would your priority be on individual taxes, on income taxes, or on business taxes, if you had your choice?
My view is more on the local level, and on the local level we have business taxes. The individual taxes are more on the federal and the central level, and I think that's not possible for us to change the political system in this central area. But in the local level, for the business taxes, I think that's a very good process.
Do you think that the state will accept in the future this local transactions with the local money? What's your expectation?
I think that's a fight. That's an
Yeah.
everyday fight because on the one side, blockchains are spreading the idea of alternative or parallel currencies. On the other side, the example of the Libra shows that states could be very fast in establishing new laws, which also are constraining local currencies. So we have to fight for a different view on local currencies or community currencies, and business currencies which are more for profit reasons. So I think it's not easy, and in the 1930s it was very, the state was very centralized and hierarchical, and they immediately stopped small projects, and today they are studying it, and I think it's very important to have the communication between central banks and local communities, community currencies, and I think that's a thing what we should do together and not alone. So as a single local currency, it's very hard, but when you combine the currencies on the European level, it's easier to have talks with the European Central Bank, and we will try it next year.
Okay.
So I may miss the point, but can I understand the key factor of the democratic decision making of the Kimgawa is cooperative of your operation system. Is that right?
Yes, the key factor are the basic rules, and that everybody can take part at the organization. So when you have an associative or cooperative, then it must be possible for everyone to take part, and that everybody has a voice and can decide. He doesn't have to, but he should have the possibility to take part. And in the case of the Libra Foundation, you have a legal structure, and it's not possible to join in. And so I think here you can see it on the legal side, on the contract of the organization.
Okay. So you said everyone can join the organization.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, the organization.
Even if the outside people can join.
Yes, of course, everybody.
Who is it?
Okay, you can set the rules and say only in the region or in the area, but on the basis it should be open for everybody who is willing to take part.
Going on the same pattern, if anyone can join the network, so
Yeah.
has a right to participate and right of voice,
Hmm?
then which is the governance structure within the network? Which is because this is at the heart of the democratic process, the governance structure, and
Okay.
which is?
I have shown it here.
Just to because
Yes,
maybe
shortly.
I
So
lost it.
we have a non-profit association, and everybody who wants to take part at the Chiemgauer will be a passive member of the Chiemgau association. So he has the right to take part at the assembly.
Yeah, so you can vote.
But when he wants to vote, he can sign membership for the active membership, and then he has a vote. But he can go to the assembly and say, okay, I want to be an active member, and the annual fee is €30, so it's not too much. And if somebody wants, he can take part and can vote. But when he doesn't want to pay the 30 euro, he can also take part and can also raise his voice. And so we're very open in the assembly. And the association does the basic rules.
What to be an active member?
What?
To be an active member, what is needed? To be an active member. Not only to be to vote, but also to be voted and to become a member of the decision-making committee. What is needed?
We have a form on the website. You can sign it,
Okay.
or you go to the assembly. Everybody is invited who uses the Chiemgauer. So we have 4,500 members, and they are invited. And then between 40 and 100 come, and they have the right to join in and sign a paper, and then they are an active member. Or before you can also fill in the form.
So they can be elected in the decision-making committee.
You can come and then be an active member, and tomorrow perhaps you are the first executive officer of the Chiemgauer.
So it is like a cooperative. A cooperative. So
yes.
one vote,
Yes.
one person.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, because the time is limited, we collect the questions and comments. Please go
So
ahead
in
and then maybe, sure, thank you.
In the same context, what is the system of decision making?
Okay, that is one question, and you comment.
My
Because
question
the
is back.
cooperative is another.
My question is back to the business taxes. Was there any papers published or research on either the period when Chiemgauer was able to be paid for business taxes? And I know there's a lot of researchers. Is there any documentation on periods in any country about being able to pay business taxes in complementary currency?
Not at that special period. No.
Okay, and the question?
And this question is, we have in the statutes, it says when we are in the assembly, we are obliged to build a consensus. So everybody should join the decision. But when we have a conflict, then the majority would decide. But when you want to change the statutes, you need 75% of the votes. So that's
75% of what? Of people?
of the votes who are in the assembly. So when we have 50 people in the assembly, 75% of them is the majority to change the statutes, and 51% when they want to change some rules.
And who makes the decision? In which way is accountable for the decision made?
Everybody who is in the assembly can.
Not in the small committee,
Yeah.
not in the assembly. So the assembly takes, for example, elect someone
Yep.
who will be, or 2 or 3 persons who will be in charge of managing.
Yes, the assembly elects four executives,
4 executives.
and that's the board of.
The board of managing.
Yes.
And anyone can be in the board,
Yes.
with or without expertise.
Yes.
And the board, in which way is accountable for the decision made?
They are fully accountable.
Yes, fully. In which sense?
In the legal sense, when there's a problem with taxes or something, they are obliged to fulfill all obligations.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Why I'm building here the technology, it's a German thing. The legal part, every question you had for majority, everything like that, it's a German legal thing for cooperatives. So it's not 100% special only Chiemgauer, but
Okay,
this is the legal
general
framework
rule.
of Germany, mostly. Hello, my name is Heinz Hafner. I'm from the Unterkuchenberger Institute from Austria. I'm very obliged to be here. Many, many thanks to all of yours and all of the organizers here. It's a special occasion for us to be here in the Asian area and are able to talk at an academic conference. The Unterkuchenberger Institute is handling all those topics around currency systems, and the specialty that is more and more coming up is that the digital area is a totally different story than the history of Virgil Feigl. A totally different story. You cannot compare it in nearly nothing. I will come back to this statement later. The Institute was founded in 2003, and if you look later, that Virgil was in 1932, it's very late. It's very, very late that the region of Virgil is reconnecting to the history. It's because the whole world has written lots of things about Virgil, but Virgil doesn't know of it. So that's about the years before 2003. And that's a weird story. That's a really weird story if a region is losing its history and its remembering things. So Michael Unterkuchenberger, he was a special guy. He has read the book of Gesell and everything about what could make the world go around a little bit better. And one of his statements that I brought with me is, people live from the exchange of their services. That was one of his major statements, that makes people happy if they are doing things together, coordinating. And we, as the first step in 2003, took care of documentation of the history so that never, never, never it happens again that Virgil is forgetting about Virgil. And it's also about education. Because if you talk to the local political people, it feels like educating. It's like feeling they don't know what they're doing, what they're deciding, because they have no idea about money. They have no idea about how people are coordinating services. And we have to do a lot of research, not only historical, but contemporary. And the creation of consciousness, that's the most important part. Be and stay conscious what is happening here and what was happening in the past and what will come up. So that's our story, what we are doing as a really very, very tiny institute. We have a budget of about 3,000 euro a year. Yeah, I love it. We have no building. No. We have only people who are crazy. And they are crazy for money, not in the mean as the world is crazy for money, but in the other way around. We are talking about the historic thing, then it was a negative interest rate of 1% per month, which felt crazy. Today it's normal that money is decreasing in its worth. A few years ago it was not. So what was done? In history, it was funded community projects funded by Virgil Feigl, which was one by one a shilling. So it was exactly the same sum as the official money, but it was given out to people with a different paper. So the shilling were kept, and those paper was given out. What happened is that it ran around because of this negative interest rate 9 times faster than the shilling would do in theory, because there was no shilling, because it was a lack of money. So it was only a theory to have it going around in speed of 1, because there was no shilling. But once there were those funded community projects, not in shilling but those paperwork, it was 9 times faster than if it would have been shilling. And what happened is like building, doing lots of things, and Virgil was famous in this time to all those other communities like, hey, what are those Virgil people doing? They're building things out of nothing. Not nothing, but they kept the shilling and they did it with this paper. So that's the most crucial point. Everybody wanted to have this thing, so it was just a disaster in means of legal, because it was just kept down and was closed. And today we have a huge problem out there. Everybody wants to have the Wörgl Freigeld again, because they have no idea of nothing. Because to make 1% of interest rate negative, that's not the solution. That's not building the best money on earth. So what is it, what we are doing at the moment with the SD Institute, is what it means to design a currency. What's the process of designing? What's a life cycle of money? What's that shit? The second, once you have a small or basic understanding what it means to have this process of designing money professionally, not in means of making a nice paper. The second is, how can I experience a space, a social space, how money works? Not thinking and understanding here, but feeling with your heart, feeling with your feet, feeling how it works, it really works, and it feels. The third one is, once you make the rules, everybody thinks, yeah, it works, that's the best money now. No. You have no idea mostly about your real goals that are behind. You mostly have no idea what your rules are really doing afterwards. So you could simulate, and that's one of the crucial parts as I see, to simulate just before making it crazy. And make people crazy. Because having lots of money makes people crazy. You know that. And the last part I want to talk about is education. Once you have all this knowledge out there and this feeling and this targets and goals, then people have to keep the consciousness. Because once the money and the possibility and the instruments and the organizations and the governance problems and the law and whatever comes up within the project, it's getting really crazy. And it's getting complex, and mostly they forget about the ground idea. That was the real idea behind. So, let's start with design. A money system, I call it an ecosystem, is mostly based on attributes, based on rules, based on a process of decision making. I would call it in the modern world of cryptocurrencies, which I call digital currencies, or digital asset management. It's a money system and it has attributes, it has rules. It's based mostly on an unseen governance model. Because managing money means decision making, means building rules, means changing rules, means whatever it takes to keep it up in a changing world. So the many aspects are just confusing. How is it coming up, the money? And once you have decided how it's coming up and the rules, how it is exchanged, how it's keeping its value, whatever, 1,000 points, we made some kind of a decision matrix in our institute that helps people to orientate in the first step, to understand and make the right questions on the second, and then designing and thinking it deeply through, and then testing. So what's it? You have some goals? No, you don't know. Do you know your big why? What are your target and goal settings for the whole project? Do you want to make the best money on earth? Forget it. Stop. It will be not one money. It will be maybe exactly the special money you need. As a transaction system, as a value of store, whatever we learn about money. So, I take one out of it, it's TAM. It's the total addressable market, because this is most misunderstood point when I'm talking with people about regional money. There is no regional money. There was the Waldviertler northeast of Vienna. It was a regional money system. It's dead today. No problem. But it's not a regional money, because if you are in Vienna and you are a real fan of the Waldviertler, and you have 5 friends and you want to share with your friends the Waldviertler, it's not a regional money from Waldviertler, because your total addressable market has changed. You have 5 people using it, accepting it, so is it original money? I don't care about this. It's not original money. It's a community, it's some kind of acceptance group that is using money. The other way around. You make a money for the youth, and the older people are using it. The other ones love it. So is it still a sectional money system for youth? Really? Forget it. Forget it. You can make rules, you can make goals, but money flows where it has to flow. Where it's accepted, it's accepted. So what is the real rule making to make your goals out of your money system? So that's the real point. How do you concentrate? How do you distribute? How do you circulate? Whatever you like to do that your money should do. You should know what you're doing. And it's built into the rules. And the more we're getting into a digital area, it's not rule making by decision making, we as a human person. It's like built in as a programmer code into Ethernet, in Ethereum, or whatever you call this crypto shit. It's programmed mostly. So, think about it. Who is the responsible body? So that's about governance, that's about autonomous, organizational, whatever is coming up now. So, how to learn designing money? How designing currency systems? That's a real process. How to design your own digital currency? That's the dream of everybody. Your own money. But what's the circle? What's the group? How do you organize? How do you make it technically work? And what's about the money life cycle? And most of the point in our practical workshops we are doing with people, real people, small groups in a circle, working hard, thinking hard, laughing, crying, everything about money. Because there's one crucial question I love to give it to yours to think about tonight. How is the money that you are building up, millions, billions of your new money, getting away again? How can you guarantee that it's not getting more and more and more and more and more and more money units, but no asset, no value on the other side? Because that's called inflation. And most of those currency systems that are not well designed, and we are living in some of them, are just not well designed in means of, could it get away again? Could it die also? Is there some kind of a taboo that money is not allowed to die? Maybe. So please, when you are a designer of a currency system, please make a joke out of it. Think about dying money. When is it going away again? Or do you hoard it? Just as much as possible of it. Wonderful. Welcome. What we are doing at the moment is we have a European Union funded conceptual work ongoing for the second half of 2019. And it's all about money design. We want to make up a concept how we can bring out as an educational concept with the Chiemgauer people together at the moment. So the German and Austrian side is just bringing up a crazy concept about money design. What's the process of making money in the other way around? So that was the design part. The experience part was started with some pupils of a school. It was about how can we make a money game as an experienceable room. So let's bring some people into a room and let's experience how is money working. And it was not done by professionals, it was done by pupils. It has been from some project, and they took 4 systems. The classic economy, which is not as classic anymore because it was the positive interest rate thing. So it's gone. The Bergner Freigeld with 1% demurrage. The barter, which is only transactional, keeping some bookkeeping and having some fun with minus and plus. And on the other, so no interest rate. And on to the Totopia part, I think it's a hard part now to describe within 5 minutes, but I tried. Who knows Totopia? Hands up. I know it. Just think about a tree, and you get apples. And apples would be the money. Then you get lots of apples for free, which means money for free every time the tree gives them apples. So think of money like apples. Every season you get lots of money for free. And everybody can take some money if he wants to have, because he exists, or she exists. Once you take up this money from the ground, then you are really rich, because you have money. Newly made money. It's called newly rich people. So you have a newly rich people now, and lots of them. It's too much money, somebody could say. No, because an apple, if it's not taken up and it's not used, it's rotten. It's unusable, it's going away naturally. So think of money as a natural thing. It's coming up and it's going like natural. So that's Tritopia. Very easy. You're going into a room, money is spent like crazy because it's there, but if you're not using it, it's rotten, it's gone. So that's Tritopia, nice room. So what was the takeaway of those experiences in a closed room with crazy pupils playing with money? It was not the economic, the classic way that was the nicest room. They loved Tritopia. If you think of money and you need money and it's there, and you don't need it, it's going, it feels like natural. So that was one of the takeaways of this room. This was the most wonderful room to live, period for period for period, very peaceful, no rich people, just having too much money. Yeah, that's not practical, everybody says. But it was the nicest room to us. Experiencing is much easier than a deep understanding in means of thinking in your mind everything through. Because once you experience a room within 2 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, a whole day, you get some feeling how it works, even if you don't know the rules exactly. It's like euro and dollar, you feel it, you know. You're living it. Decidable, sustainable system, that's a hard part. Deciding a sustainable money system was for those pupils nearly impossible afterwards, because now they understood how complex it is to set the rules and make it run. And once you have some rules and think it works, you could do two things. You can do it model-based with a power simulation software, or you can do it the new way by programming an agent-based system like a neuro system. So both are out there and are well done, but not in the financial sector at the moment. I'm sorry about that. It's used for so many things, but not for that what we would need. So that's why if some crazy people are doing it, trying it, but we have no resource. Our budget at the moment is 3,000 euros, so it's not as possible as I think to do it within an institute with 3,000 euros. But it could be a very nice thing for research. So main aspect when simulating a currency space, as we did it with our 3,000 euros and a few crazy people, is keep an eye on your foreign trade balance. Whenever you simulate, yes, I'm quick now. So the balance, the acceptance rate, who is accepting this money and how long, when is it going down in means of acceptance, how is it distributed, how are those economic circuits closing or not. Everybody who is doing this shit knows what is there. Those are the crucial points. And it's not told by an academic something, you see it in the simulation, it's coming up as a problem. Progress development, how can you do some dynamic into those simulations so that it's maybe realistic, so that we have an electronic car now and not something like that, it's changing. What we are doing at the moment is the ethics and impacts part in the institute mostly. So we have some kind of wisdom circles. I'm not used to this picture here. I'm used to get away from the tables, let's get into the circle, let's have a fight in means of Now we know it. And everybody knows the same or something different. You talk your facts, you talk your facts. Wonderful. Hours later, we know nothing. So we are doing interdisciplinary wisdom circles for ordinary people at the moment. Ordinary people. You are an ordinary, you are an ordinary, me, I'm ordinary. I'm not study of financial. Not as I would need for the World Bank. So the education, and that what I mentioned, is the next budget is in the papers. We hopefully have the chance in Werder, together with the Chiemgau people, to get the budget for 3 years in follow-up, 1 week of study in means of currency systems for everybody who wants to have it, fully funded. I love it to hear when I say it. I hope it comes up. Outlook and trends, 1 minute more please. I see, as you have heard surely when I asked some questions or I brought some statements, we are going into a new world, monetarization of everything, tokenization of everything, arts, old-timers, a real estate, whatever is value will be traded in means of tokens and digital. I'm in this business earning my money. Sorry for that. So I know something about it. The P2P exchange that you have had in yours could be the next decentralized baseline for transactions. Could be, because the technology is there, the culture could be there. It's happening too slow. Facebook could be faster. Thousands of parallel worlds are coming up, ours already there, and I see not one thing that wins the story, but it's getting complex. So new confusion is coming up. What means funds? What means smart purses? It's called wallet now, I've learned. So what is coming up now? A totally new world, how we are doing and managing money. Many thanks. Questions, please.
Thank you. So you and then you.
Calgary Dollars, we're really struggling to have a monetary policy that we feel is going to be stable, obviously, but coming to the conclusion that the vast majority of the factors are actually subjective, not objective. And that would apply to national currencies, but we don't care about national currencies, we don't question their stability. Those subjective factors are the things that we will be judged on, but the objective factors that people are thinking of aren't the most important.
I'm with you. What's your question?
So, you talk about modeling. How can you model accurately this large influence of subjective factors?
You know the answer already. Keep it simple. So start with some major rules and test it as soon as possible with a critical mass. If you do it by simulating because you're high tech, or if you're doing it with a low tech, 8 people in a room, and just trying your best to understand your own system, that's a good start. Do not print the money, do not make it a cryptocurrency with all the rules built in, programmed fully, and go out there and make people crazy like we have the best money.
Mm-hmm.
Then you will see the results also very quickly. But you will have crying people because it's not a game. Because then you have all those defects out there and you have to warn people about defects, and if you don't know your defects, because you are decided some subjective things and you think it's okay, the smaller the test drive, the clearer you see if it fits your goals, if the rules are sustainable. Then you can change and change and change. In Werder we made a youth currency system. Even we are aware there is no youth currency, but it was rule-based, no cigarettes, no alcohol, no whatever youth shouldn't have. and it was based on some kind of rules that youth would be the first core team in means of using it. And then it expanded. And it holds. But even there are some defects we have to accept at the moment, but it's not crucial. Okay?
Yeah.
Next one.
Thank you for the very, very hopeful story. But actually, I'm trying to the same similar project, but the biggest problem is there's a you are almost answered. I know, but actually there is a you, right? And there is another your currency which is devaluating 50%. So who accepts the devaluating?
Which is a bad money.
Bad money. Yeah. So the biggest problem I'm encountered is who accepts that bad money.
I love this question. I have it for you. I have it for you.
Okay. Okay.
Would you like to have this coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? Really, really? Pay me with my currency.
Okay.
Otherwise, go ahead.
Okay.
So, think about it.
Thank you very much.
If you are the keeper of the needed resources, and you make your own money, you're the king. And I mean it like that because I've studied this shit. The king had the money. And if you are a king again, you as a community, you as whatever you are as a group, as an interest group, keep the resources, keep the social capital. What we have learned in the morning from Professor... He said it, not he himself. We were told by artificial intelligence, but yeah, he said it. Build up the social capital again. And what I'm talking with my flower here, with those 4 things. Designing for people. Experiencing for people. Simulating, maybe in the low tech with people. But the last is the most important. Educate people keeping consciousness. Go offline. Stop your mobile phone. Start thinking. That's what our wisdom circle is doing. Stop your mobile phone. We are talking about cryptocurrency. You don't need a mobile phone. Next.
Yeah, thank you for this inspired presentation. But my question is about how could you quantify the sustainability?
Quantify what?
Quantify the measure of sustainability. How could you measure?
That's very sophisticated. Because there you would need those people that are studying things on a very high level. I'm only a mathematician, so I have problems with measuring. Because it has to be exact. And at the moment, those simulations show up so many question marks, what is not measurable at the moment because it's soft. We don't know because we're used to euro and dollar, those easy systems. And all the money systems I have seen within the work of the Institute are very complex because we are playing with the rules. And I learned something. If you are not in the system, you would see it. But I haven't found a solution to be out of the system. So whatever you're doing in the system and changing the rules changes the system, and now you have to deal with new measurements. So it's really, really, really hard to make it a clear measurement that tells you what's sustainable. I have one trick for it. If this system is simulated, and you feel comfortable with the rules, and you will feel comfortable with the things you are measuring, and it's still alive after 500 rounds, it's some kind of sustainable. So if you have still acceptance points, stores, people, whatever, you have still a closed secret and means of money is running around, no hoarding, and they are still accepting this bad money. Because mostly it has to be bad money, otherwise you can hoard it and make money out of money, which is a good trick. Human beings love to have passive income. Doing nothing, earning money. So, 500 rounds, simulating whatever, low-tech, high-tech, you're near to sustainability. Because it's 500 years.
Okay, after him, please. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So I understand that issuing money is the easy part. The difficult part is having others accept it as means of exchange.
That's a very interesting first point. Yes.
And this is
And the last point?
And this is what you're doing. You're designing a currency system that others will accept it. I would like to, if you could say something on how to, on the funding of these projects and how to make these projects self-sustainable over the long term.
Funding
Like
is easy. Find somebody who pays.
Okay, so government subsidies, user fees. I mean, this is what I missed from your presentation. I loved your presentation.
Yeah, okay.
I liked it a lot on how to design and how to make it bottom-up design.
So what's the question?
On funding, how to make the project self-sustainable financially. I mean, who runs the system?
I have a trick for you. I have a trick. It's not running at the moment because we are not worldwide now. But back to his resources. At the moment, we are test driving some kind of social experiment within our crypto circuit because we are really hungry to make it work, not only talking about it. So what we have started at the moment is, during our workshops, thinking about what could everybody out of the community bring in as an asset, as a value thing. Honey. The regional honey is the best one for each region. Coffee, vegetables, fruits, whatever you can bring in. I bring in the facilitating of the crypto circuit. It costs 2 WOMCs. That's the Wordle Open Market Coin. It's Mummel of English. Mummel?
Marble.
Marble? You know marbles?
Marble, yeah.
Do you have 2 marbles? Or if not you, your kids or grandkids? That's the currency. We are playing with marbles. That's our currency. It's easy to make marbles. Or just get anywhere. If you pay me with 2 marbles, you can be part of the crypto circle, wisdom circle, for 1 evening. That's a currency. So now we are playing with marbles, and we try to get rid of them. How can we destroy marbles afterwards? Because otherwise, if we do 1 year round, everybody with coffee, vegetables, everything is there because we are doing it, and we are paying with marbles. At the end of the year, we have lots of marbles, but no vegetables anymore. We have too much money. So we have to destroy the money after the circle. Because the money is left, like dollars and whatever you can't eat, but the things you would need are used. So what we are thinking at the moment is the end of the life cycle. How can we destroy it again? And when can we build new one? So the funding is very easy. You don't have to produce consumed goods, but you have to do permaculture. You have to do things that are sustainable in itself, and they are producing value. You can build solar electricity out of itself. It's easy to fund, and it gives you energy much longer than it costs, which is a profit. It's called profit. So if you give the profit back to this social group, it's social capital. And then you can decide 1 year later, the garden, which is a free garden, and you have lots of vegetables left, then you can decide how much value do we need in the currency and how much value do we have. But we are not used to that anymore. Because our banks tell us, I make it 2 zeros at the end more, and I think there is the value too. We are not used to start with the value, we are creating money. And I think we have to turn it around. We have to think about how can we produce value again. Let's start with social value because it's our power. Let's bring it in with some natural stuff. It's our power. And then let's think about how can we get the power back of those resources we are not in power anymore. I think it's empowerment. Funding is empowerment. Find a crazy person who has money. And he should be as crazy to give it for the human people again. And not for his hoarding. So what was the crazy part? Him or he should change? I think we have to give back the funding to the community. And then the community is just wonderful. And then you have funding. Answer the question?
And the last question, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, very brief question, but probably it adds something to your presentation. I'm extremely happy with your presentation about designing money, and I think it's extremely satisfactory in a circle like this of commoners. But let's say, since I am a very humble person, that I am the king of Italy, and I ask you, how can I designate this as my currency? The question is how to transform money in currency. And the designation of money as currency in a certain community means that you have to convince people that there is somebody in power which is able to guarantee them.
You are asking, I translate your sentences into a question I hear. The question is, how can I have the power to govern? In means of governing this new money system.
Beyond the design problem of the designation, how to designate something as the currency.
How big do you want to start? Because starting really slow and low, it's like those pupils that started kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's empowerment by yourself. But if you want to have empowerment for a bigger governance money system, you need friends. Maybe powerful friends. Crazy people with money, crazy people with political power, crazy people. I think it starts with crazy people. And we are a room of crazy people. That's why you are talking about commoners.
How much powerful we are, but we are probably...
But don't underestimate the power of crazy people.
No, I don't underestimate, but you see, there is the next step.
So what's your environment? You have to analyze your environment, find the powerful switches that you need for starting whatever level you want to start and can start. I don't think that we should talk to the kings. They don't hear us, they are not near us. I tried sometimes. They are deaf and blind and whatever. Or they keep busy with different things sometimes. So I wouldn't recommend starting really high. I know so many projects that started really high and are discussing. And after they have discussed, they are discussing. And when they are finished with discussing, they start the next round of discussing. And they came to wonderful theories. But they had not a new money system, they had not the new resources, they had not nothing, but a concept. And that's the hard part I'm really, really tired of. Having wonderful concepts, theories, and then we are talking about who is the powerful guy who has to be crazy. Women too. One more question or we are
Maybe
finished?
it's the time to stop.
Sorry, I have no answer.
Yeah.
For the power
We need
question,
that.
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.